Welcome. Let's take a look at our top story this hour. The administration has designated Chinese media houses as not practitioners of journalism, but rather as operatives of the Chinese state. The list includes Xinhua News, CGTN, China Radio International, China Daily, and The People's Daily. Now, the U.S. State Department has said that these media houses listed on your screens are propagating state-sponsored propaganda and that they are just agents of the leading Communist Party of China. The latest coming in, China has hit back at the U.S. State Department's decision. In a news briefing, the spokesperson of China's foreign ministry has said that the United States has always advertised freedom of the press, but it interferes with and obstructs the normal operation of Chinese media in the United States. Officials said that the decision came after repeat examples of how much of a function of the state the companies have become, and that, quote-unquote, the freedom of the press in China is under a severe siege. Earlier, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo had said that the action is long overdue, and he said that for years these so-called media outlets have been mouthpieces of the Chinese Communist Party, and these Chinese outlets are becoming more aggressive. In the U.S.'s defense, this is in line with their Foreign Mission Act. So what does the decision mean? All the Chinese outlets called out by the U.S. will have to notify the Office of Foreign Missions about the names, personal details and turnover of staff living in the U.S. Now, the entities designated as foreign missions will also have to clearly announce the current property holdings on U.S. soil. These rules also apply to the foreign embassies and consulates in the United States. Now, this does not come as a surprise, as the U.S. has aggressively moved against China and its policies in the recent past. China is known for curbing its fourth pillar, the media. In the current times, the Chinese media has been accused of underreporting the COVID-19 outbreak because of the pressure from the government. In turn, China slammed the United States for spreading fear and panic in the world by being one of the first countries to evacuate its citizens. U.S.'s decision on the Chinese media outlets comes a month after President Trump signed a temporary truce in the trade war with China. And critics suggest that this decision could lead to a retaliation against American journalists who work in China, especially those affiliated with the United States government. We are joined by Chinese political and economic commentator Aina Tangen, live from Beijing. Good evening to you and welcome. Now, these 5 Chinese media outlets are designated foreign missions, so not practitioners of journalism, but rather as operatives of the Chinese state. What exactly does this mean for these media outlets?
Well, this follows on last year's decision to say that all journalists working for these organizations were in fact state actors, and they needed to they were foreign agents and they needed to register. So this is not the first attack on them, but the second. So the U.S. is in essence just kind of building up the rhetoric. It's not clear if this is just something that Donald Trump wants to use to look tough on China or in connection with his campaign, or if this is just another part of his kind of 360 degrees of pressure on China. Remember, he's been in favor of all of the issues involving criticism involving Hong Kong, Tibet, Xinjiang, Taiwan, South China Seas. Practically everything that China does is now wrong. You can witness that by what's happening to Huawei, which seems to be getting the worst of it now, that the government is saying that they're going to say any company that has 10% or more technology in their involved in their products cannot trade with Huawei.
Now, is this move by the U.S. significant in terms of the timing of the announcement?
No, I mean, what's interesting is you're not hearing the Chinese government say that they're going to retaliate by walking back the Phase 1 trade agreement. It seems that they are compartmentalizing it. This is not the first what the Chinese perceive as an attack following that phase one agreement. But I think they're prepared for it, and they're basically just saying, look, we'll take these things one at a time. There was an announcement today that 3 journalists from the Wall Street Journal have been asked to remove themselves from China. They penned an opinion piece that China was the new sick man, the real sick man of Asia. This did not sit well with the Chinese government. So it's not clear if that's part of the retaliation or they just simply are not going to abide by this kind of constant criticism that they perceive is motivated more by ideology than by fact.
Yes, that is part of their reply, but the Chinese government has hit back criticizing the U.S. on its own press freedom policies by interfering with the Chinese media. Take us through the statement, and do you think this is accurate?
Well, yes. Any foreign entity in China has to be certified by the government. They have a license. They are not allowed to be here or work for a group unless they are registered and things like that. So in a sense, the U.S. could say, well, we're not doing anything really that different, except this is putting these agencies very publicly on the same level as a consulate. This is not something that China has done. And there probably will be some repercussions. You can already you hear a lot of journalists here are complaining that they don't have the kind of access that they used to have. But, given the amount of negative press, China perceives that a lot of the foreign media is against it. And they say, I'm not going to stand idly by while somebody kicks me in the teeth. I will, literally do something in retaliation. So it's a downward spiral at this point. Hopefully, it will at some point abate, probably not now. If there is a post-Trump era, which I think everybody is wondering if it's next year or 5 years from now, there'll probably be a more civilized atmosphere. Remember that Trump likes to destabilize anybody that he's dealing with. He likes to be unpredictable. He likes to kind of punch and then softly seem to with neighbors, this type of thing. He really thinks that this is the best way to get a bargain. He's looking to pressure China into more economic moves that will help him, especially going into the election. So I don't think anybody's surprised, but it is definitely not a positive outcome.